with so many changes going on at Xbox right now, we are getting a lot of talk from Microsoft, and it's quite interesting to hear some of the things that's being said. And like a lot of people ask me, well, how do you feel about it? Do you feel okay about it? Do you think that they're going to go back on their word? Do you think they're going to maybe do something different? And I have a lot of different feelings about some of this stuff. I think when it comes down to it, like I was down to a 1% like of hope before, and now it's like at a 5%. So that should kind of give you kind of the idea of where I'm at with Xbox. But a lot of people would say to me, hey, why are you even bothering? You can't change anything. They're not going to change anything. They're going to keep doing what they're doing. I think the fact that people are gone in leadership, and during the 25th anniversary year and supposedly close to a console launch, it's very strange to me that those things would happen if they were happy with the way things are going. And I just want to say one thing real quick. So a lot of those I'm not this guy, but a lot of those Xbox dudes that were out there saying and hyping up being a third-party publisher and hyping up not having exclusives and hyping up saying console sales don't matter, game sales don't matter, this kind of stuff, and consoles are dying. And those are the people, and I'm not telling you guys how to live your lives, but those are the people that I would avoid, because they go whatever the way the wind turns. Say what you will about me, but I've always held that it was a stupid idea to lose exclusives. It was a stupid idea to not count Xbox and not go along with Xbox. And now, we see that Microsoft pretty much agrees with that statement. Now, does that mean they're going to change anything? Listen, if they weren't going to make some sweeping changes, why bother making a change at all with leadership, right? That's kind of the way that I look about it at this particular time. And what's interesting is Matt Booty, who keeps falling upwards for some reason, basically is now in a very, very interesting type of situation, because he's like the guy when it comes to the games and stuff. And so I think that's what we kind of have to look at and say, okay, well, he's really kind of holding on there. He's really kind of doing his thing, or whatever the case may be. But he was talking about Xbox being a first party, or backing away from a first party and just become a publisher, basically leaving hardware. Ever since Xbox started putting its games on other platforms, in particular the PS5, there's been speculation about whether the brand could ultimately end up going the way of Sega during the Dreamcast days and become just a publisher. Xbox EVP and CCO Matt Booty actually addressed this during an interview, telling the outlet that, quote, "We're not backing away from first-party games and hardware, at least not anytime soon." Here's what he had to say, quote, "It is core to our partnership with the Microsoft platform, being involved in early hardware decisions, all the work we've done to get games like Gears of War running great on our new devices like the Xbox Ally and so on. It is embedded within our structure. We're not backing away from that. We're committed to being a first-party games publisher in partnership with our first-party platform team." Of course, it's not too surprising that Matt is saying this. There's some major first-party games coming out this year, along with the new handheld ROG Ally and an update of consoles. It could be launching in 2027 or 2028. But again, words are going to be kind of empty when you kind of think about that, right? Like, for me personally anyway, people would go, well, do you trust what this guy's saying? Well, he was up there on stage with Phil and Sarah talking about it's only 4 games and, all this kind of stuff. So, it's really kind of hard to say. I think at this point, like the new CEO and him, they were doing interviews yesterday, and I think it's fine. But the other thing that I would kind of hope for is that, Microsoft would do something that would actually, be like set in stone for a change, you know what I mean? Because they're always just like kind of, well, maybe we'll do this, or maybe we won't, or maybe we'll do this, or maybe we won't. And it's always this kind of like situation where we're really kind of left wondering, what do they actually mean? And that is, I think, a big problem, because you already have like so much of this stuff, you have so much of this stuff already kind of confusing people, and I feel like that is really a disaster, to say the least. And I honestly hope that they do stick by and change something. Listen, if you were just going to kill the brand, right, like some people think, if you were just going to do that, you wouldn't have got rid of Phil and Sarah in the first place, right? Because that's sort of what I believe. I mean, I believe that they're going to try something. What that something is, it's really hard to say, but I truly believe that they're going to try and work out something to get Xbox back. But I've also mentioned this numerous times. Unless it's something like, maybe going back to the drawing board, getting a getting a console made, because I think they need an actual console. I think if their plan is just to stick with this PC thing or whatever, which is expensive, it doesn't really matter what they do, because it's going to get completely stomped on anyway. Like, nobody's going to go out there and buy, a $1,400-$1,500 quote-unquote Xbox PC, and especially with no exclusive games. So I think that's probably where we're at with some of this stuff. And unfortunately, you might as well not have done anything if you were just going to continue doing the same exact route, the same exact thing that you were already doing previously. So that's pretty much kind of how I feel about that. And again, it is kind of funny to me because and I mentioned this, I think, in a video the other day. The Xbox boss herself was kind of questioned about whether exclusive games could return. Ever since Asha Sharma was announced as a new Xbox boss, there's been speculation about whether exclusive games could return to become part of Xbox strategy in the future once again. And she's kind of addressed it in the interview as well, speaking on a whole range of topics. Sharma was questioned at one point about the potential to revise Xbox's current strategy, and suggesting that nothing is off the table, but that she needs to learn and figure out what the data says about Xbox's strategy today. Quote, when asked what Asha Sharma thought about the idea of returning to exclusive games, she said, right now I need to learn candidly about why of these decisions and why we were optimizing for, and what the data says about Xbox's strategy today. That's the honest answer. I'm looking at lifetime value, not just what happened in a previous moment or in short-term efficiencies and things like that. The plan is the plan until it's not the plan. So ultimately, it sounds like there's at least a slight chance that exclusives could become more prominent in Xbox's future, but that the new Xbox's boss doesn't really have any answers right now. It's simply too early to make any judgment. It is maybe a little bit refreshing that she's looking at it and at the bigger picture and analyze every element of the current strategy to see what's working and what isn't. So there's every chance that exclusives won't be part of the strategy going forward, but at least they're being factored into or whatever. But again, the way that I look at this is, if you are somebody that's just going to sit back and take a look at this stuff, look at the games that have released on PlayStation. Most of them have not sold well. The only one you could say, Sea of Thieves, did okay. You could say Forza Horizon 5 was pretty good, but other than that, nothing. Even Doom, Indiana Jones, Hellblade 2, Age of Empires, Gears of War, none of these games have sold well. I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze to kill your console. And, in particular, you put Halo and stuff like that. I wouldn't put anything on PlayStation, to be honest with you, unless, the Activision stuff, yeah. And, I honestly, I don't care about the ZeniMax stuff, too. If you want to do Activision and ZeniMax, all for it. But it's like, for me anyway, if you're going to try and sell me a piece of hardware, you better have some kind of reason that I should get this hardware, and that's the big thing from my perspective, right? Like, I'm not going to buy into an Xbox quote-unquote PC, but I would get into the next Xbox if we could, get an actual console and, some actual exclusives and things like that. I'm sure that you guys probably understand where I'm coming from, and, maybe you guys think the same way as I do, or maybe you don't. But honestly, she's got to probably wonder, kind of what's happening, and, what could kind of change the future, with what's going on. So that's kind of from where I am with the perspective of this stuff. I do hope that things kind of change, and I hope that, my hope is that they kind of go, okay, well, we're gonna, go back, and we're gonna go to formula or whatever, and we're going to kind of, we're going to go back to having a console, and we're going to have some exclusive games and stuff like that. Again, we'll see what happens. Like, am I going to buy into it? Do I have a little bit more hope than I did? Sure, right? They just shook up the entire leadership. So sure, I have more hope than I did. So let me know what you guys think. Rack 'em up. Crap Gamer out.